Today I will be discussing why I think we're about to see an explosive move to the upside sooner than what people think. I will also discuss why I think we're due for an altcoin rally, which could be the biggest one we've seen this cycle, and finally what you should do right now. Nothing I say is financial advice. First, tariffs. There are new updates coming out every other hour regarding the tariff tantrum, tug of war we got going on. The important thing here is to acknowledge that tariffs are one of the main variables that are currently holding Bitcoin down. What I want to direct your attention to is how Bitcoin reacts when we have rumors and news about tariffs. When we had the rumor about the 10% universal tariffs during his speech on Liberation Day, we saw Bitcoin climb up to 88K in the span of minutes before we had the real numbers presented and it took us down. Same thing happened when rumors started spreading regarding the 90-day pause. Bitcoin then printed a godly candle in light of just a small relief bounce from the stocks. Then we actually had the 90-day pause confirmed together with the most bullish buy alert from DT himself. Then we see quote-unquote developments with Trump exempting smartphones, computers, and chips from the new US tariffs, which again makes us pump. So there's no doubt that tariffs is one of the main variables that are holding Bitcoin and crypto down. Currently, China still remains the main issue here. We're by no means out of the woods. The difficult part here is for all the parties to engage in a truce in a way that doesn't look like anyone is admitting defeat. But this truce, coupled with some sort of negotiation framework, will present itself eventually. Until then, we have to deal with a lot of volatility, both for the stock market and crypto. With that being said, in my honest opinion, the sentiment has hit an all-time low for this bull market. Last time we were dipping and going sideways like this during the August and September crash, the sentiment was low, but nothing like we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks. Also, if you think the comment section is still remaining positive, it's because most of the people who have sold recently are not spending another minute looking at something that can trigger their PTSD. And I keep on saying this, but the amount of people that has given up, that are exhausted, is at an all-time high for this bull market. Back here, we started to see YouTubers selling off. Nothing wrong with selling off, of course, but when people like this who've been in the market for years feel scared and exhausted, what do you think the average crypto investor is feeling? I've also noticed something very interesting in this crypto YouTube space over the last couple of weeks. Crypto YouTubers are now talking about TradFi in a much higher degree than before. Pay close attention to this shift in focus. You'll see that the crypto market have a way of surprising people when attention lies elsewhere. Right now, I see people claiming that we have to wait until 2026 before we start to embark on a bullish rally. This is exactly the kind of negative conditioning that comes as a result from entering a choppy period. It seems like people forget that Bitcoin can pump 30% plus in the span of just a couple of days or weeks. In fact, it has done so multiple times, both in this cycle and every other prior cycle. Like for instance here, back in March of 2023, where it did a 40% gain in the span of just 7 days, or here where it did a 75% gain in just over a month. A similar 75% gain would put us close to 150K. My point is that things can turn around so incredibly quick, but people forget this because we've now been in a depressing chopping period. My thesis still remains. I think we're due for a rally within Q2. And I still stand by my prediction that we could see an all-time high within June this year. Like I called on my X, make sure to follow me here for updates. An all-time high within Q2 would also align very well with the global M2 money supply, which on the 108-day offset is indicating that we're due for a blast off at around the 1st of May, and that this rally is going to be lasting for a couple of months. This would also correlate quite well with the rate cut potentially taking place on the 7th. On top of this, we see the dollar dipping, we have cold inflation data, we have perfectly tested our moving averages, and we will eventually get rid of this tariff FUD. So a lot to look out for, and things can turn around way faster than what I see people predict. So this is great at all, but what about altcoins? The narrative for this cycle is that altcoins are dead. Altcoins are not going to recover. This is a Bitcoin cycle. Now, more than ever during this cycle, I see people calling for no altcoin season. Same exact thing we saw back in 2020. I know for a fact that people love to pretend that they were present back here and say that these were easy times. You know, we had QE and all. But remember, the average crypto investor had no clue about QE and QT back here. Believe me, the no altcoin season narrative was also present back here. No altcoin season will continue to be the negative narrative for every cycle. Now, we're most likely not going to see anything remotely close to the 2021 altcoin season, but I see no problems getting a mini altcoin season like we got in Q4 2023 and Q1 2024. And you might think that this rally was in light of a huge drop in Bitcoin dominance, but if we check, this whole rally for altcoins really happened with Bitcoin dominance chopping. Sure, there were some drops here and there of up to 5%, but if you zoom out on the Bitcoin dominance, it actually looked quite strong during this entire period. This all happened while low caps were doing 20x's, 50x's, and even 100x's. Also, if we check on December, where we also had an altcoin rally, this one was a bit more typical of what you would expect when we see altcoins perform well. Keep in mind that back here, the dominance had just hit an all-time high for this cycle. But again, this one only dropped 11%. And here we also made 10x's on small caps like Sensei, 4x's on big caps like Beam. Join the VIP community to see which coins we're buying for the next rally. Do not make the mistake of joining after we make these gains, because if you go back and check the dominance drop in 2021, when we had the altcoin season, we're talking more than a 40% drop. What happens when we top for Bitcoin dominance this cycle? I don't think it's unlikely to see half a drop that we got in 2021. That would be a 20% drop, which would be more than enough to kickstart a solid altcoin season. And I know for a fact that this is going to catch a lot of people off guard. How high we need to go to see a drop like this is just pure speculation. Back in April last year, I predicted that dominance would top at 65% for this cycle. And I think this has turned out to be quite a realistic prediction. I do not think we're going to be touching the 70s again. But around these levels, I think we can see the same kind of steep drop similar to this one, only bigger. Finally, we need to discuss what the plan should be moving forward. For the people who wanted the riskier portfolio and bought mostly lower caps, you're probably down at least 60%. If you don't have any dry powder left, personally, I would either wait for a pump to sell off 20% to have some dry powder ready in case we go lower, or actually sell off some right now, especially if you have financial obligations outside of crypto and need to be liquid. You can still sit on more than enough to make this cycle worth it. Forget about people talking about capitulating or saying that it makes no sense to sell now. I can guarantee you the same people screaming for this did not take profits during the December pump. Do what's best for you. Only you know that. My current dry powder status is about 20%. This is actually a bit more exposed to the market than I would like. I usually like to have at least 30% the entire cycle, but the prices lately have been too good to pass up on. And I think it's actually quite funny how everyone up here were disappointed with themselves for not acting on the juicy prices during the August and September market, and that if they had the chance to buy again, they wouldn't hesitate. Now they're hesitating because it feels wrong. Buying is not supposed to feel good. You're not supposed to buy something and be happy about it. Being happy is not optimal for big crypto gains. If you're happy buying something, 9 out of 10 times, and you can quote me on this, you are buying at too high of a price. So keep calm, DCA into solid picks, and de-risk if you have to. We have lots to look out for. Join the Discord to see what I'm buying to prepare for the next couple of weeks. Take care and stay safe.